Alright, after my A4 Top Gun and the Trumpeter A6 Intruder build, I just need something simple for a bit of a Mojo restorer, as those two builds went on a lot longer than I had anticipated. So I'm going to do this Airfix photo reconnaissance version of the Mosquito. Just starting off with some prep work, just bits and odds and ends here and there. I'm skipping around. Started with the cockpit and I went to the landing gear and wheels and come back to the cockpit again when parts dry. Pretty simple. You've got your main floor of the cockpit and you're adding bulkheads and another floor section on the front. I'm adding the parts I can that I can paint the floor section, and other pieces like the instrument panel, which are black, I paint separate and glue them on afterwards. There's this radio box behind the pilot. No, the only issue I had, which was kit related, was the pilot seat. The left armrest side, which is this side, and the inside of it had a huge ejection pin on it, like probably 1.5 mm long. I had to cut it and sand it back, otherwise that piece wouldn't fit. Yeah, a bit odd, but because it's got a little tab and slot, so the chair, center of the chair, has slots, and the side armrests have got tabs that fit in there, but the ejection pin was next to that tab, so that was never going to work unless you take it off. The wheels are molded as they got a bit of weight on wheel, so you be careful when you glue them, because you can glue it either way, so make sure you got the weighted section that match up. So because it's the photo reconnaissance version, this side needs a hole drilled out, which is, they tell you everything along the way, so it's 3.2 mm to put in the clear part. It's interesting how they give you a jig in the kit to drill holes here, which is for the belly lights. So you will align the jig up to and then drill the hole. So they're just pointing out, don't glue that on, it's not part of the aircraft. Same with the wheel or the landing gear leg assembly. So this is the left side. So it's pretty much a step by step of the gear leg. So you got two struts with parts going in between. They have you use the actual gear bay as a template or jig to align it all. So they point out here, don't glue it at this stage. It's just aligning everything, and then you glue all the parts together and it should be aligned. So there is room, it can move though, so I'm a little bit skeptical of all that process, but I'll see when the time comes to actually glue that leg in, and if it's squared up right. So hopefully it is, but like I said, there is wiggle room, so I did the best I could with what they're showing me. I'm not up to it yet, but there's all exhaust. They got arrows pointing which way, forward, up, and that sort of thing. So trying to limit the possibility of errors in the build. And they also give you a mask, as in a plastic part to put on when you're spray painting, that you've camouflaged that you don't get paint on the interior of the landing gear bay, which is a nice little touch. Yeah, so, and then that was all for the left side, and then you come back and you start again for the right side. So I've already started taking the legs off for the right side. So it's not going to be a huge build, which is what I want, because I just need a bit of a reboot. Yeah, so no, it's all nicely molded. There's no flash or anything that I've come across so far. Right, I've painted up the interior. So I've used AK Real Colour RC293, which is Royal Air Force cockpit grey green. So that is that colour. I primed it with black. I usually do cockpits and interiors black. Nice dark base. You can see it's pretty grubby looking. I've given it a I used the Tamiya dark brown panel line wash, and I have used some I think I let it sit too long, and I've used some mineral spirits thinner, odorless thinner, to knock it back with a brush, but it's still pretty grubby. But I'm not, by the time it all goes together, you're really going to be seeing a lot. It's a nice tight fit anyway. So as you can see, you're really seeing not a lot, a little bit I suppose time the canopy goes on, but when the canopy's masked, all the framework and that. So I'm just going to go with that. If it was 148, I'd probably paint it again and clean it up, do it better. But as mentioned, this is just a bit of a Mojo restorer build. Yeah, so I can glue that together now. So I put in those the lights. So I use that jig to drill those holes, and I've drilled out the hole outside and put a light in. See, I used crystal clear around them just to hold them in. It's messy, but you won't see it when it dries. I didn't want to use, normally I'll use a bit of extra thin, but you need to be careful when you dab it on. So I get the brush, knock off the heap of the glue, and then just get on the edge and touch it, and the capillary action will run around. But because these are interior, I just use the crystal clear. It's a bit messy, but you won't see it. I've also started gluing up engine nacelle. So this is the left one. So the instructions, to go over here, so they show you which is simple enough, and they pretty much guarantee you can't get it wrong. When I got all that all right, it was just when I sat the exhaust stack in that piece, there's not a position where it'll just, oh, that's where it sits, it can move. And I wasn't sure exactly what angle the exhaust stacks sit at, but I had a look on, I'll end up going, I think, to Airfix's website and their Mosquitoes, and this appears to be where they sit right down, but that's not, so inside you're not seeing that, it's not flat when you put the exhaust together. Which one do I want? This one. So you can see, so this sprue is for the right nacelle and wing parts. So you can see they've got the arrows on, which are showing you, so they're on the back, so you know which way they face. So inside that's flat, but when you put the exhaust stacks together, they got like a curve in them. So yeah, it's just a matter of, I had to work out exactly what angle I needed to be at. The exhausts they're not hollowed out, and they are extremely tiny, so I'm not even going to mess with that, because I could try getting the small drill bit and try and drill them out a bit, but I might damage the end, so I'm just going to leave them like that, being so small. Alright, fuselage glued together, put the rudder on. I also scratch built harnesses for the seats, just out of aluminium foil tape method I use, which I do on heaps of my builds, just for a cheap alternative to aftermarket. Also should point out, there is these bulkheads inside the wheel well. They have ejection pin marks, but by the time you will fit the nacelle and put in the wheels, you won't see them, so I just left it. Plus, when it's in its normal position, you wouldn't see them anyway unless you lift it upside down to look at it. There are more pieces to go on. So I've put in the intake there, so that can be cleaned up with this seam line when it's dried properly. There's two more parts that go on there, like little look like access hatches or flaps or something. They could even be cooling flaps that open, I don't know, the aircraft. So, but anyway, I'm not putting them on until I've cleaned up that seam. What else had to go on there? Oh, and there's a that little, I don't know if it's a radiator or a cooling intake as well, goes on. Same again, I'll clean this up and that, and then I'll glue it in when it's all cleaned up to make sure I get all the seam joins cleaned up properly, there's no gaps. So I just realised when I went to put the right wing together earlier on, when I was putting the wing halves together, I was looking at this and it was a bit of flash. It's only now I realise it's a short shot. Airfix, you've got me again. It's not the first time I've had this problem with Airfix, and it has been a long time, and they do have a good service for getting replacement parts, but there's probably a reason for that. However, I'm not going to wait a month or more. This was supposed to be a Mojo build. Now it's become difficult. So what am I going to do? I just went into the leftover parts from my Skyhawk, the A4. I did the 1/32. This has got a similar size curvature. So I've cut this off square. I'm going to cut this bomb and I'll join it, and I'm going to have to clean it up and fix up the that join that peeves me right off. Yeah, I just wanted a nice quick Mojo build, and now I have issues. Oh, nothing too major, I'll be able to sort it out. Alright, getting there. This is just like, it's taken me maybe 10 minutes, just hook in and get it done. It looks a bit rough, but by the time I make it flush, put it on, clean it up and paint it, you'll never know. I still have to clean that up. I just cut it. So that's just a piece of plastic card. I cut it out and sanded it to the profile of that. Top of that cowl. But yeah, still disappointing that it got past quality control, if they have such a thing. So yeah, I use CA glue to hold that in, and that piece to get it done quick. So I'm still waiting for it to dry a bit, then I'll clean it up, put it on, and then it'll be good to go. Alright, so I've cleaned up, fixed up that short shot, good as new almost. Yeah, so it helped. I had a piece of plastic that was the right shape, saved a lot of time. Being curved, it's an awkward place if you wanted to do flat plastic card or something. It'd take a lot more time working it out. I think, yeah, there's a, you see that little spot where the blade's pointing? It's a little hole in the wing as well, but that's easy fix, bit of CA glue. So I've cleaned up the other wing, I've done all the joins, cleaned up the seams, cleaned up that little cooler intake, I think, and put in those little flap pieces. So the wing tips, you can see I've taped that off, they're clear. Where is it? There's one. So they're stamped, so that's the starboard, and the other one had the P on it for port. So I'm just masking that off. I'll paint them in at the end. You can see not perfect fit, I need a bit of putty there to clean a bit of a gap up. So I need to clean the seam or the joins on this wing now, and I've started doing the fuselage. So I've done a sand, wax some primer down, and I can see here I need to clean up again, and a bit here. I put in that door. The instructions don't call for it till later on, but I want to do it now to make sure it all fits and it's all sorted. Yeah, that panel there with the camera didn't fit great either, sort of recessed a bit. Anyway, it's on the underside so you don't really see it. The stabilizers are a really good fit. They plug in, so they'll fit in the recess of the fuselage, but they also have a system where they plug into one another, so they align perfect, which is good. But being the Mosquito, it's mainly timber. Well, a lot of it's timber, so you got big area like here, this big curve. You need to make sure you get that seam right, otherwise it'll stand out like the proverbial dogs, you know what. That hole there will be for the antenna mast. I'll put that in a bit later, and there's one that goes in that slot on the tail as well, and more glass to go in, obviously the nose and those windows there. And you can see there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those little small ones. I just use Mr. Masking Sol R and a toothpick, because the brush you get on it is humongous. I lift the brush up and I get a toothpick and I just dab a bit on that I need, and then just put it on and let the capillary action run. It does eventually. It's pretty thick, so you got to give it a minute to let it grip, and then just spread it around. So yeah, I'm making a bit of progress now that I've cleaned up that short shot. Alright, wings are on. I've cleaned up the seam joins, seam lines. I did need some putty in some places, like around the tanks, drop tanks, and a bit in the wing root on the top. I was pretty close, but it wasn't perfect. So I'm just putting in these glass pieces. I've put these two little ones in. I'm just going to leave them dry and make sure it dries nicely, which it should, because I use crystal clear glue to put it in, but before I put the others on. That's just a dry fit of the canopy. So the canopy there's two in the kit. There's the British one and the American one. I'm doing the British scheme. It's got a bubble in the top, the other American one doesn't. And I have to add the windows yet to that. And of course nose sections, clear piece that's got to go on. It's starting to look the goods, the Mosquito, and as you can see I've put in the antenna and the pitot on the tail.